Hello, everybody, and welcome to Catalyst of Change. I'm Alexia Cito, your host, and so excited about this episode. We have the absolute honor and pleasure of being with Nicole Ross, who's joining us right here in New York City. And we met first actually in London, which was so amazing at the World Summit on Women and Girls. And it was such a powerful, for me, it was a life transforming event. It was really, really extraordinary with one of our partners, Dr. Justina Mutale from the Justina Mutale Foundation, with which you're also here representing. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an amazing experience. Being here again at CSW in New York is a great experience for everyone, and I'm so glad you had an opportunity to come here and see all of the amazing women from around the world that are here for the 69th session at the United Nations headquarters.
Yes, and I want to thank you so much because you are the one that opened the door with Dr. Justina and the foundation to actually be here. And you said, we want to empower you and open the doors, and I'll do everything we can, invite you here. And that moved me so much because it's one thing, for people to talk about empowerment and, do all of these types of conversations, which is wonderful. And it is important to raise awareness. But it's another thing to actually take that extra step in our lives to take an action, to make a call, to make a connection, to open a door like such as this. And, you actually put, for example, my name forward to be able to be in attendance, which took this accreditation. And it's really such an honor and it's a privilege to be able to be there. There are people all over the world. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And I also wanted to really highlight it and bring attention to it and actually say, I'm curious before we jump into the World Summit on Women and Girls, but just in harmony with that, is there anything you want to share about that? Like the importance of actually opening doors for people and really like how do we actually empower women and girls in that way?
Well, I was talking with Dr. Justina and we were discussing how we need to talk more about the actual work that we've been doing, the impacts, and how to quantify it so others can understand how important it is. So we were talking about some of the children and the young people that we've affected. And some of the children that I've been around, I've known them since they were like this big, and I have pictures of them when they're this big, and now they have children and they're grown and they're world champions. So there's about 4 world champions that I've known since they were in the amateurs. And now they're grown people and they have babies and they're on television and they're world title holders. And by just being involved in young people's lives and supporting them and being their cheerleader and giving them the resources that they need, we're just doing the work, but we're not talking about that component of it that much because we're just doing the work. So, when we were talking, myself and Justina about some of the children that they've worked with, where one child, she's working with Google. They remember that young girl when she was very young. Now she's highly employed at Google and she's able to empower her family member, a younger sister, to come and work in this and pay for her to go to school.
Wow.
And now because of that interaction, now this child, she's in college and she's going to be able to work in the same field and be able to have a chance to change her life. So we're doing the work, but we're not talking much about like these success stories. We're like, once they're a success, we're like, okay, we have a whole bunch of other young people that we're working with. So, just there's the difference that one person can make by just encouraging someone, by mentoring someone, by giving them information that can change their lives. And you just never know. Like when I met you in New York the last time you were here, the young lady, Yukio, who was the Japanese young lady, she actually came to two of our sessions, and she spent the day with us. So she saw our hectic schedule, and she brought her friend, and they stayed with us till about 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
It did not stop. And we were just, they were just like, oh my goodness, all the people we've met. The other young lady, it just opened her eyes to different opportunities that she didn't think of that she could pursue. They met Queen Mother, several Her Royal Highnesses, because they had a fashion show upstairs. They went with us to the Zambian mission here in New York, and they were able to sit in on our conversations as we discussed some of the programs that Her Excellency Dr. Justina Mutelli is implementing through her foundation. So just being able to watch that really empowered those two young ladies it was two young ladies, but the one young lady that you met. And I did follow up with the young lady that had her thesis working on climate change and impact of policy and things of that nature. So by just encouraging someone and giving them an opportunity to take and check out what's going on, it really can change the trajectory of a person's life.
That's so powerful because it's something that a lot of us actually already have the ability to do. And we may not even realize it by just creating that space. It may not, maybe the space isn't even there, but maybe actually taking the initiative. For example, hearing you talk, it's making me think like, what if I was, a board member somewhere, or I worked in finance, or anything, like anything we do could even be something simple, like a labor job. Maybe I work in a trade. There's something that I'm doing that someone else, a younger person, is at the early stages on their journey and they want to do that.
Yes.
And there's an opportunity there that you made it so clear for everyone.
Yeah. When we had our amazing panel discussion, which was held at the headquarters of TD Bank in the Vanderbilt building on the 21st floor or something, on their high level floor, I think. And just talking with the people, the leadership at TD Bank, I was like, I'm working with the leadership in Philadelphia as well. And I started to tell them a little bit of the impact and the support that TD Bank has had with my other organization, Hands Across Philadelphia, and how they have a state-of-the-art facility there that deals with STEM technology, cybersecurity, and things of that nature. And I was telling them about how much support I received. And I was telling them one story about, we had a youth council meeting for youth, and the children were there and they were expressing themselves. We were giving them an opportunity to be heard and asking them, what are some of the things you need to be successful? What are some of the things that you think you're lacking so that you can have, a leg up in life? And so some of the children were talking about their feelings and not having safe spaces to talk. And what it opened up to was, I gave the two of the young men, they were really big, and they were 15. They look like linebackers. I was like, you're how old? They're like 15, but they're really big. And I was like, so you eat a lot of food. And I'm like, your family has they have to feed you guys because you probably eat like trainloads of food. So I said, tomorrow, why don't you guys come with me and I'll take you to meet my plumber who works he's a master plumber in Philadelphia. So whenever he needs work, you guys can come and work with him. Mm-hmm. So that way you can help, your family, because plumbers make a lot of money.
Yes.
So I'm like, you guys can look at him, follow him, and just help him what you can so you can see something different. So I said, meet me at 9 a.m. at this location, and I'll pick you up and take you to meet the plumber. Wow. And I said, so this way, every time, now once you meet him, every time you think you may need some funds, you could call him because he's working every day somewhere. And you could work after school, so that way you can be able to put some money in your pocket and be able to help your family. So the two young men, they were really great at this council meeting. They were sharing and everything. And then that night, there were riots in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone was out running in the street and, doing mischievous things. And so these two guys, they weren't brothers, they were like best friends. And then the one went straight home, went to bed so he can get up early to be on site, to be where I told him to be. And the other one went out and he got arrested.
Oh.
And so when he came in the next morning, I was like, hey, where's your friend? We got to get ready to go. He was like, I don't know. We get to the site. We meet with the plumber. The plumber has a job that he's doing, and he needs them to help him with some digging or something, so he's working. And I asked him a question. Later, I was like, well, where's your friend? He was like, I'm not sure. He gets called, and the young man is calling him because he knows his phone number.
Wow.
And he's in jail, and he's telling him to call his parents. So I said, do you see the lesson here and what a difference your choice made to go to bed and come here today? You have an opportunity now. You have a connection now. And every time you call him, he's going to say, hey, come and work with me, or he'll be calling you on the weekends. You won't even be calling, he'll be calling you. So now you have an opportunity to be a contributing factor to your family's household. So when you're eating food, they're like, hey, he brings food with him. He doesn't just take food out. And I was like trying to explain to him, like, that's so important. So throughout the day, I asked him questions. I was like, do you have to go to the bathroom? He was like, no. And I was like, your friend is going to be having to ask someone or tell someone that he has to go to the bathroom so he can get permission. But you're free to do whatever you want to do because of the choice that you made. You made the proper choice and the right decision to go to bed so that you can be someplace so you can be productive. So all day I was asking him questions, and the questions also makes them think about, what was the lesson? Be responsible. What was the lesson? Be where you're supposed to be. What was the lesson? Don't miss out on opportunities. So throughout the day, it was like me pestering him with these lessons. But I was like, his family is going to have to bail him out of jail. And that's going to be a financial burden. And I was like, you're not going to be a financial burden when you go home to your parents today because you made the right choice. So constant reinforcement. And that little test or little thing of me just bringing to his attention how important it is to follow instructions, stay where you're supposed to be, and just stay on a path, because there's great things you can do if you just follow instructions and stay on a path and learn life's lessons, not just ignore these things that happen. So I told him, I said, the consequences of this is that his parents might say they're not going to get him out of jail. And then they'll let him stay there, and then he'll have to figure it out. But then it causes other problems. And I said, imagine what would happen if you were working a job and you didn't get up, or and you stayed out late at night, and then you ended up missing work or getting wrapped up in something, and you wouldn't be able to continue working. Think about those consequences and how the choices you make have a severe impact on your life, but also your family's life. And I think that lesson, that life lesson, or teaching those children those lessons, it was a hard lesson, because now he's going to be able to teach his friend the lessons that he learned. He has an opportunity to make funds. He has an opportunity to change his life and make better decisions. And he's going to encourage his friend, because I'm not there to give his friend the encouragement now because we missed that opportunity. But this young man is going to be teaching the lessons. So just like what you're doing, you're talking to people, you're interacting with all these amazing people from all over the world. You're sharing knowledge, and then you're giving people opportunities to learn lessons from other people.
Yes, and it's so key, like what you share about learning the lesson and actually putting it into practice. And I love that you said, like, sharing the wisdom to learn from other people, because oftentimes if we've been through something or we have an awareness, like what you did with this child, you taught them, or this one that said yes, that showed up, that made that choice. And now he's able to learn, but not through needing to go through that, that
Yes.
suffering himself, he's able to learn in a positive way, which is something that I feel is really important, because we do have that ability to teach in a positive way, and to use what we've learned and what we've been through to be able to bestow that upon others. And I know even with the World Summit on Women and Girls, like that was a big thing I took out of it from all the speeches, and even now in the Committee on the Status of Women, hearing the stories.
Yes.
Hearing the sharing, and then also seeing the work that's being done. And you mentioned the foundation, Philadelphia. I'm wondering if you could share with us a bit about the foundation, some of the projects that you do and the focus.
It's been amazing. We've been operating since, I believe, 2011. Wow. And Hands Across Philadelphia was an initiative started with about 10 people. The founders they owned several restaurants in Philadelphia, and they were sitting around. And they said the children don't feel like we care. There was high violence in Philadelphia at the time. Children just what is it called? Like gun violence, and the crime was rampant, and the children were the high participants, the high actors in these situations. And it was just so much. And we were sitting around. We had in our group, we had Men United for a Better Philadelphia. We had all these heads that ended up being part of the board of Hands Across Philadelphia. Another member was part of the Pennsylvania Black Legislative Caucus, the Bucks County president of the NAACP, and we're just sitting around talking, the 10 of us, and then our founder, Carlette and Kenneth Brooks, they were like, we have to do something to let the children and the people know that we cared. So we decided to do a march. And we were going to hold hands down 52nd Street. It's almost a 5K space. But we were going to walk for peace and walk down the street. And then in certain areas, we were going to hold hands and just let the community know. And people, by the time we started at, we started at the bottom of 52nd Street, and it's a business corridor, and then we pass it's a business corridor, then it's a residential area, and we had so many families come out, stop what they're doing, and just come out and walk with us. And a lot of people were affected by the gun violence. We also were partnered with Mothers in Charge, which is a group that was started by mothers who have lost children to gun violence. And it was just an outpouring of all of these groups, and we were working together. And then at the end, we stopped at the ShopRite supermarket, which was our first sponsor, and he also ran for mayor in the city of Philadelphia as well later. But he was our first supporter, along with the NAACP president and the Pennsylvania Black Legislative Caucus. So we walked down, and at the end, we had all these resource tables, because there's so many organizations that don't know what other organizations are doing. And so we sort of brought them all together so that they can offer services, as well as there's a lot of city services people are not aware of that can help them, like the Department of Human Services, DHS. A lot of people don't know they have food, they have Pampers, they have all these resources for people, and they're not aware. They just think of it as a negative place, but there's all these positive things. They provide cribs, all of these. So they found out all this information. All of these people got together at the end, and it just turned into us walking on an annual basis. And then we had other groups that started doing peace walks. We walked through smaller communities with groups, and we walked with some ministers at one point, and we walked through, and we had young people stop. And one young man asked for us to pray for him. Aww. And I mean, he was like maybe 27, because he said he was going through a lot of stuff. And we had a minister at the time. He's a minister, and he's also a boxing coach. Wow. So he was like, come and see me. And, he prayed for him. And we got together, all of these community leaders, to pray for this one young man. And it just, as we were walking through the community, we had so much impact. And so we continued to do it, and other groups started to do it more. And then as our organization started to grow, I started to say, when we had our last march and the children came out and they were signing our banner, about 6 or 7 children signed the rest in peace to someone that they loved. Oh. And at the time, I had only lost one good friend. So these children are writing it 5 times, 6 times, and they're losing. And I was like, we can't continue to do this like this. So as we moved forward after the pandemic, we decided to focus more on training, certification, and the future of work and the urban impact on our communities. That was one of the things that we spoke at the CSW 65, where we spoke. I gave a talk about the future of work and the impact on our children, and we started to say, okay, we can start working on jobs of the future that our children in urban areas may not have access to. So we started a remote drone pilot license program to help children get acclimated with the future jobs that will be done with drones. We started an agricultural program, hemp, as it moves forward in commercialization. It's a career that young people are not aware of. So we're working with the agricultural department about getting certification, hemp inspection certifications. So we focus now on trying to get young people in the jobs and the coding as well. When we had Hands Across Philadelphia and the World Summit of Women and Girls is a collaborative partnership between myself and Her Excellency, Dr. Justina Mutelli. We started the World Summit on Women and Girls, to give youth an opportunity to have some access to some of these platforms, and also so that they can be able to see themselves as a future leader by being able to be on panels and interact with other world leaders around the world. So we segued from Hands Across Philadelphia doing local initiatives to Hands Across Philadelphia doing global initiatives, and setting an example for others to see that we can, even though you start local and you become global.
Right.
And that was just us working together, as far as educating the children about different jobs that they can get in the future. And it's just been a whirlwind of adding more and more to what Hands Across Philadelphia does, and just seeing the response from around the world. We actually had some young college students from Norway. I don't know how they found us, but they came over and they wanted to know what were we doing that was so different as an NGO, a small, local, because I travel around the world many times and I represent Hands Across Philadelphia. And they were like, we heard about you and we'd like to know, what are you doing that's different than the other NGOs? And I was like, I don't know. And they were doing research to talk with us and see some of the processes that we do. Our organization is self-funded, is ad hoc, and all volunteers. So these people, they come and they're passionate. They're on other boards, and we're providing resources not just for community members, but other nonprofit organizations in the city that may need support, resources, or support in knowings. Like when we have these high-level discussions at CSW, there's information about the Sustainable Development Goals that really impact urban communities. But it doesn't seem like you need to know what they are because they're not going to affect you. But when you think about gentrification, the changes to our water system, infrastructures in cities are changing, the costs that are associated with that, Sustainable Development Goals need to be taught in urban communities as well because they're being impacted. So we went from just being a small nonprofit organization in Philadelphia to being a global resource for other NGOs here and abroad. And with the work that Her Excellency Dr. Justina Mutelli is doing, we've been able to widen our reach out to Startup Africa, partner with them and their programs to get children involved in STEM, and being able to have children from Philadelphia have an exposure to other people around the world. One of our biggest accomplishments that we did 2 summers ago was we had children in Philadelphia fly drones in Australia remotely. Wow. So that we did that in partnership with Temple University, with our drone instructor, Jay Bagley, and it was just amazing. He also was one of the demonstrators for the World Summit on Women and Girls in Philadelphia when we had our summit at City Hall, and in partnership with Hilton, which was one of the first Hiltons on the water in Philadelphia. So everyone was so supportive, and just learning what we were doing, especially with Her Excellency's amazing book, The Art of Iconic Leadership, just sharing that. The manager there, we gave the book to him because he has 2 young girls that were in college, and he wanted them to see like all of these women getting together for the World Summit. And it was so many global partners there that were very supportive. Eritrea, Cameroon, a lot of ministers, and we had the great pleasure to have the first female president of Mauritius come and join us at the World Summit of Women and Girls. And it was just, she's a science and technology doctor, so the girls had an absolute amazing time speaking to her, asking her questions, and just being able to interact with someone of that stature to say, hey, I might could be her too. So it has been just wonderful, wonderful journey with Hands Across Philadelphia and the Justina Mutelli Foundation. As an initiative, that's what the World Summit on Women and Girls was, for it to turn into this massive event that, it's just changing young girls' lives. So in November, we had the World Summit of Women and Girls at the House of Lords and several key locations in London, and we had about 7 young ladies from different parts of the United States sit on panels with doctors, lawyers, and give their discourse and feedback on the subject matter, the many subjects we were talking about for empowering women and girls. And you can just see the impact, because those girls were here at CSW at some of our events. So just seeing them again speaking, and every time you see them again, you see the progress that they're making. They're more courageous. They're more on point. And it's like, oh my goodness. I'm like, you're going to run something. I want to make sure I find out what it's going to be. So let's stay in touch.
Wow. This is like, oh my goodness. I had the pleasure of being able to sit beside 2 of these young girls, and they gave their discourse, and they had a presentation. I remember one was about equal pay for women, and the way that she presented, they were 12, I remember.
Right.
Yeah. The way, and they present, I was like, the way that it was structured, the statistics, the confidence, the tonality, like, everything was so on point, and I just was looking over like, I am sitting here taking this in, learning, how to speak better, how to structure a presentation, how to present an idea. And it's something that I could tell they were so passionate about, that they truly felt like, I am delivering this message from inside. Like, this is something that I believe, and this conviction. And it was so, so beautiful to see that, and to see them be given that space. And in fact, I have to share that I think that was the time I thought, this is something special, because it's rare, actually. I've been to a number of conferences and things like that, to give the children a voice. They might be sitting in the audience, they might be invited, but to actually give them space to speak, and everyone in the audience, all of the, like you said, the doctors and the lawyers and the entrepreneurs and the this and the that have to be quiet and listen to this child because they're teaching us. They have this wisdom. And, it's something many traditions have known for eons, this cycle of life and how we learn from one another, the elders and the children, and how important that interaction is from both sides. But I just wanted to say and honor how beautiful and powerful and transformative. And it was just something that I found very inspiring and something that I remember in that moment being like, wow, imagine if we did this more as a society. Like, we really gave children a platform in all of the places that that what we're speaking about, what we're deciding on, it impacts them because they have a voice and they have wisdom. And wisdom is not always connected with age. There's maturity, but there's a wisdom that comes from the children as well. And they have a voice that does not always need to be conditioned by the adults. They have, in fact, their own ability to formulate their own ideas and voices. So I wanted to honor you and everyone who put that together, because that I felt was something very special actually for the World Summit on Women and Girls, and something I would love to see a lot more of.
Yes, we will be again back in London in the fall, and we'll be at the House of Lords again, and we'll also be at Chatham House. So one of the things I said we have to be at Chatham House is because when most of the CSW meetings that I've been to during this 69th session, because of the many changes that we've experienced here in the United States, a lot of people have said Chatham House rules. And that's because of the climate that we're in, the political climate that we're in. So that was something different that I've never heard when I was here. But we've had a lot of major companies that and organizations that receive funding from the U.S. government. And it's very important to be mindful of the crisis and the challenges that they're facing. So I thought it was only fitting that we have an opportunity to be at Chatham House for our next summit, to be able to speak on some of these issues, because there's a lot of program cuts and things of that nature that are going to be impacted. And we want to make sure that we're just mindful of the many people that are turning some of these challenges into opportunities and growing from this situation while we have these very uncertain times ahead. And we're having changes in our society and how our government operates. So just giving strength to all of the organizations that will be joining us so that they can have freedom to feel that they can express themselves really well. We're really happy with this CSW and how many amazing young people have come back that have participated in the World Summit on Women and Girls, and how they've brought their friends, and just seeing the domino effect of these young ladies that are turning into our future leaders, because that is exactly what they are. Yes. Youth are our future. And most of the young people that you see, most of the young people, if you really look at it from a historical perspective, most movements were led by children under the age of 18 across the globe historically. So if you want to impart change, you have to start talking to a child, giving them tools so that they can be successful in the future to make the world a place where they can live in. Because the world that we live in right now, we're not thinking about the 2 generations behind us that will have to deal with our careless understandings of climate change and the impact, the environmental impacts. So we just have to be mindful that we have to reach out to the young people, let them know that they matter, and give them an opportunity to express themselves, because one of these children has the key to unlock everything that we need. And we need to make sure that we give them the guidance, the support, and the resources to make that a reality so we can live in the world together. And that's what I think the World Summit on Women and Girls is doing by giving youth and families an opportunity to change their lives one person at a time. And it's been, the impact is speaking for itself because we see these young ladies at different events. And when you see them speak, you see the progression. They look like they're honed politicians. Some of them, I had the pleasure to see another young lady from CSW, 65. And I saw her recently at at one of the panels, and she's a totally different woman.
Wow.
And she's the child she was and the woman she is now is because of all of these women pouring this information. The Committee on the Status of Women is something that women should be bringing their children to so that they can understand. Because it's not only girls. It's not only for girls. It's for young men as well. So they can understand. There's a young man that's been at the summit. I've known him since he was 16. He is here representing UN women from the UK in the civil societies. And he's only 20 years old. And I've seen this young man. He is doing phenomenal things. So if you give the children resources, he was only 16, and he's already heading major things in the UK. And he's still a child. He's not even 21 yet.
Wow.
It's amazing. So this is why the work that Her Excellency Dr. Justina Mutelli does with her foundation is so important. The children that are being impacted, you see the difference. We had another one of her students that came through her program. She developed something for asthma and treatment of young people in Africa. It's amazing. She still isn't 21 yet.
Wow.
So these children are the key to our futures. We have to provide them with tools, resources, and support. And like you don't have to agree with them. You just have to give them one of those three things. If you can give them all three, that would be great. But if you give them those three things, that child's life is going to be different. And there hopefully will make a difference in our lives in the future.
For sure. It's so, so, so important. So important that we do that for these children. And like they're coming up with these solutions. They're coming and the statistic about the movements, I'm like, it makes so much sense, because I love when you say there's one of them that hold the key. They hold the key. And this is why it's so important. And this is why, like, even with Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation, we focus on women and children. And what Justina Mutelli Foundation, the collaborations with the Hands Across Philadelphia. Like, we need this. And there's a reason that when you say it's like, oh, but everything starts something small, but when it grows and it grows organically and it grows so big, it's needed. There's a reason, there's a purpose. This is needed. We need this. And, it's so, so important. And I really want to honor you because I love how when you open, you mentioned we're not always sharing this because we're doing the work.
Yes.
And it's like, there's so many people on our planet right now, they may not even have an Instagram. They may not even have a website because they're like, I don't know what that's about, but all I know is this is my community. I'm doing this. Yes. People need this. People need that. And that's what I think is also really powerful because especially in philanthropic work and charity work and giving back and being with the people, it's wonderful. And of course, we need to have all of it. We need to have large funding and, it would be amazing to have millions of people watching and billions even because it's so positive and uplifting. And yet at the same time, it's not putting all the value on those things that society really values a lot right now. It's like, do you have 5 million followers on Instagram or whatever? Well, maybe not, but look at the lives I'm impacting. look at the change I'm making. And the reason I bring that into this conversation as we're kind of like wrapping up is because what I'm hearing is like everyone can make a change.
Yes.
You don't need a big platform. You don't even need lots of money or just whatever we have in the here and now, whatever resources, whatever social media or not social media, like whatever we have, whoever we are, we have an ability to do something. And if we all just did that, even, would be a huge shift.
Yes. I have to share the example of one of the young ladies from the United States. I've mentored a lot of women from around the world, young women and a few young men, and the impact that it's had on their families, just to let you know, the one of the young men, he came over and he was very small. I believe he was from Mexico, and he wanted to change everything in his life. His family, he came from a really good family. They had a business at home. He had the mindset that he wanted to change. So we would come in and he would work with me, and I was like, make sure you assess things when you come in and then see what you need to do so that you can survive and thrive in the situation. And he would apply those everywhere we went, because it's a new environment. There's different, how you take the train, how you cross the street, the stores, the restaurants, everything is different. That young man went on to start a business. I had no clue what he was doing. He was doing things with eBay, and I didn't know how to work this was before the eBay thing was popular and drop shipping. He started a whole business doing something with the phones, where in his country, people wanted to get these phones. So he was taking phones that people were throwing away here and being able to refurbish them and make it into a business. Very successful. And then another young man came over. And these are young people, they travel more than American students do, when they do their travel. And he was 16 or 17. And this young man designed a closed system engine.
Wow.
Yes. I'm so blessed to have these young, amazing people. And I was telling him about the process of how to patent his engine and making sure that before he starts work at a company, because he was going to work for this German company. And I believe he originally was from Brazil. He went into oil and gas. I have not seen him since.
Wow.
He's very successful. He had a lot of issues with self-esteem, and we worked on that really hard. Me and my ex-husband, we worked on making sure he felt confident about himself, because he was tall, lanky. I said, in the future, all the women are going to like you because you're very tall. And I was telling him about just how you carry yourself, and just taking him to really good places so he can see examples of other men that were in power. And he is a very powerful man in oil and gas in Brazil. And then the young lady she would come to these real estate things with me, and I was starting to cut that down. And she wanted me to show her what I knew. I was like, okay, come on. So she was the first person in her family to own a home.
Wow.
She purchased a property. It was a duplex, and it was near St. Joseph's University. So she constantly has, a student in that space. So that was the first impact. And I told her, you have to get your mother to purchase her home. Her mother was living in a government-assisted home, and I told her to apply to purchase the home that you guys grew up in. And I said, even if you have to help her fill out the paperwork, just do it, because if something happens, then you're going to lose your income on your unit, because, of course, you're going to have to take care of your mother. So then she got her mother to purchase that home.
Wow.
And then it didn't stop there. So then because now her mother's a homeowner, she's a homeowner, and her brother, who is now 23, So her brother, she helped her brother, so the mother and her, they helped the brother go through the process to purchase a duplex. And now, so all three of them are homeowners. They have passive income. And as a family, they are looking to purchase land to do development projects in the Carolinas because they have another brother that lives down there. And they want him to follow their lead and as a family purchase land and develop and do a multi-unit situation in the Carolinas.
Wow.
So from that one young lady, we've changed the whole trajectory of the family. And then those two boys, they're going to have their own family. And she just got married last year, and she's about to have her first child. And so the impact, and her husband, while she was in the courting stage with her husband lived in another state, and she's very, dedicated with the church. So they were waiting until they got married. And so this young man, he had to change his whole life around to be in her life because he worked in accounting and he wanted to be involved in what she was doing. So he purchased a multifamily home, and then with her assistance, she was able to give him tips on how to move forward on her experience and what she experienced. So now they have multiple properties together because now they're husband and wife, and their life is going to be so different than what it would have been. So just one person. So everybody has an opportunity to influence a young person in their family or outside their family to change their whole trajectory by just giving them resources, support, and encouragement. And it just it's amazing. It's that's what I told Justina that she has to talk more about, because she has amazing stories, even more than that, with these children that go back over 25, 30 years. There's these students that are working on farms, and they end up with an opportunity to go to school, and then they come back and they pay for someone else from their village to go to school.
Wow.
So these are the stories that we're not telling. But these impacts, it makes you say, hey, I need to do this myself. I need to support an organization that's really doing the work and making sure that these children feel heard and they feel understood so that they can be the best version of themselves, so that they can be able to change the future so we can all live together.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, my heart is like exploding just hearing the stories, and they do need to be told. And just hearing you share, it's like, I feel like you are an embodiment of the teaching, like teach a person to fish.
Yes.
It's like all of these ways of then knowing that then they're going to go, and now the husband, and this new, so it's like this ripple effect that is the example of a catalyst of change. Like that's exactly what that is literally like creating that impact, and then just like watching it go.
Yes. And it's
wow.
It's just so amazing. Like we were talking with Her Excellency, when we were talking with the education, the people from the government that work in education, and they were asking, were you working with the government? She just did it on her own and has not had any support from the government, because this needed to be done. And she just it would be great to have that support, but you can't wait on people when you have she's been doing amazing things. And that's the same thing with our organization. We're not trying to take and pull funds and have a big, administrative background where we have to pay all these people. We'll get to that at one point, but the main thing is that we're the impact on the people directly. So these children, they need our support, and we can't wait. Someone has to start, and hopefully the governments and different private partnerships will help these programs grow And with all of these amazing talks that we've had on the Committee of Status of Women, the 69th session, we've seen these groups, they're using the Sustainable Development Goal. And our number one Sustainable Development Goal that we're using at this time is number 17, which is about collaborations, partnerships,
Yes.
public-private partnerships. And we've been hearing that over and over again, how the private companies are going to step in and get involved in some of these development projects. So it's not just the burden of the government, because a lot of these governments are they're overextended and they need support from private industries. And that's what we're seeing a trend for, the private sector stepping up to help some of these solutions in our communities, because bottom line, it affects their numbers for consumerism. So it's all encompassing together. So with these new initiatives that are coming out, we have more private companies following the Sustainable Development Goals, trying to fight poverty, trying to, be a part of social justice, trying to, so they're following 1, 4, 5, 7, 16, and 8. These are some of they're following some of the Sustainable Development Goals, and it's having a positive impact, especially equality, gender equality has a great bottom line on businesses. And they're starting to see, the numbers don't lie. They're starting to see that by including all, you're able to get a higher return on your investment. So it's just showing us that we have to be an inclusive society as we move forward. And this is something that the Committee on the Status of Women and their sessions that they have every year, it's so informative. And we have private companies come and partner, so it's been amazing. And just the fact that on our last session that we had Queen Mother stop by one of our sessions, and it's just been amazing. Queen Mother Dolores Blakely, and it's just great to have so many amazing people that have global impacts meeting with private entities and talking about how we're going to be, as you said, a catalyst for change for our young people so we can have a better, sustainable future.
Yes. Well, this leads us to our last question, which we ask all the guests, and that is, if you could be a catalyst of change for one thing in the world right now, what would it be?
Water security. There's an issue right now with water around the world and including the United States. Even though we have water all around us, we need to have some better solutions for water distribution as time moves forward, so we're not in a crazy Mad Max TV show at the end.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And that has been brought up in another episode as well. And a few, actually, now that I'm reflecting on them. So I just want to highlight that because it's key.
Yes.
Water is life, and we absolutely need to focus on this as a world and a society. So thank you for bringing that forward, and thank you for everything you have brought forward in this conversation and everything that you are, everything that you do. You're such an amazing inspiration. Like from the moment we were like walking down the hallway of the Commons. I don't know if you remember, you were carrying this and like, here, could you? And then passed me, and it was a book, a Justina's book. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, and then you just start chatting with me, like talking. You're so sweet.
I always do that. Just like the young lady out here. It's like, we know each other.
Yes.
Even if we don't know each other.
Exactly.
So I just start the conversation off like that with everyone. And even I've met some of my good friends I've known for 20 years by like, hey, what are you doing? They was like, nothing. I'm just, and I'm like, I'm about to do this. And they're like, well, and then I don't know their name. And then I'm like, where you going? And I was like, oh, we going down here. That's how I met one of my really good friends. He is a program announcer, and the gentleman that says, let's get ready to rumble. He's his that's iconic. He was mentored by him, and I was like, and that's how we met. I'm like, what are you doing? What's going on? And then we just started talking. I still didn't even get his name. And then by the end, and now I know him and his beautiful wife, and we're like a family now.
Yeah.
I see them in Washington, D.C. I supported him when he had his book, but it's like you never know.
Yeah.
You have to teach young people, like, you know, the component of social media and not being social.
Right.
People are so social, but they're not really being social.
Yeah.
Outside, there's a world, there's people that are standing next to you that you never know that who they are, what they're doing, and you're like, be nosy.
Yeah.
I'm a very nosy person. I'm like, what are you doing? Where'd you get that jacket from? What's going on? Finding out things, because I need to know things too. So an exchange of information and ideals for a greater outcome at the end. That's what conversations are about. That's what you're doing with these catalysts. You're giving people an opportunity to have great conversations, to find out things about each other that we might not have thought were important.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you
you.
for being the catalyst of change and being an ignition in the world and bringing about so much. And we're really excited to just see it evolve, and the partnership also with the foundations, and really excited. It's amazing work, and there's so much more to do. So
yeah, and you know that your organizations are part of our organizations now, because we have so many collaborative partnerships that we're going to be solidifying with the Committee on the Status of Women and the World Summit on Women and Girls, along with Her Excellency Justina Mutelli's foundation. Amazing. So I'm looking forward to all of these new collaborations and what we're going to do here and around the world, in Canada and Zambia and things. We have some amazing things to look forward to. So we've got a lot of work to do.
We've got a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to
so
thank
much.
Our viewers, our listeners also. And you're all catalysts of change. So we want to thank you for continuing to be catalysts of change in your life and in the world. Check out the description below. We would love to hear your experience of this episode. Share, comment, like if it resonates with you, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.